Garden Basics with Farmer Fred is brought to you by Smart Pots, the original lightweight, long-lasting fabric plant container. It's made in the USA. Visit smartpots.com/Fred for more information and a special discount. That's smartpots.com/Fred. Welcome to the Garden Basics with Farmer Fred podcast. If you're just a beginning gardener or you want good gardening information, well, you've come to the right spot. Did you know rose petals are edible and they contain lots of healthy fiber? Well, that's one of the scenic bypasses of today's podcast, which was recorded live back in February at the Sacramento Rose Society monthly meeting. The topic was something that was close to my heart and is close to my heart, growing the heart-healthy garden. And roses can be an edible part of that healthy landscape. Because this was recorded back in February, a lot of the emphasis was on the healthiest foods to grow in a cool season garden. But you know, for a lot of gardeners, the beginning of summer is the time to begin thinking about what you'll be planting in your cool season garden come late summer. So if you're looking for foods to grow that can help lower your cholesterol numbers, help control your blood pressure, and reduce your blood sugar numbers, you've come to the right place. Plus, I talk about the steps to take in how and when you eat in order to help you on that pathway to better health. It's all in today's episode 345, The Heart Healthy Garden Live, recorded last February at the Sacramento Rose Society. I'm not a doctor. I'm just a gardener. We're podcasting from Barking Dog Studios here in the beautiful Abutilon jungle in suburban Purgatory. It's the Garden Basics with Farmer Fred podcast, brought to you today by Smart Pots and Dave Wilson Nursery. Let's go.
And he is a very, very long time Sacramento County Master Gardener since 1982. He has a wealth of experience. And without further ado, this is Farmer Fred.
Thank you, Debbie. Half of what she said was true. Is it really Heart Health Month? It is. Oh, okay. All right. Well, that's good. All right. It's good to see you. You all look familiar, but then everybody looks familiar to me at my age. And it's a pleasure being here, talking with the Sacramento Rose Society. I mean, I'm not going to try to delve into too much into roses. I'll leave that to the experts. I'm a generalist when it comes to gardening. I can tell you a lot about how to plant a lot of stuff. And one of the things I like to do is eat what I grow. And that's what I'm going to talk about tonight. The Heart Healthy Garden. It was back in 2012 when I had a quadruple bypass surgery. And they told me, oh, by the way, you have type 2 diabetes too, with an A1C of 11. That's interesting. But anyway, the surgery went well. Although I got to tell you, I think surgeons lie. To repair the clogged arteries, they took out the clogged arteries and they removed an artery that's in your chest called the mammary artery. And the surgeon said, we really don't know what it does, but it's really good as a replacement artery. I go, that's okay. Well, I found out why you want to keep your mammary artery, because in the wintertime you get darn cold. That artery helps keep you warm. So, but okay, you either put on a jacket or you die. What's the choice here? Okay, I'll put on a jacket. Thank you very much. Well, the surgery went well, and I was put on something like 9 different medications. And what I wanted to do as soon as possible was get off those medications. I didn't want to be on anything the rest of my life. I wanted to find out, and I did the research, going to scientific journals, going to websites that doctors respect, and learning as much as possible. And coming back to them with information about how diet and exercise can reverse the effects of heart disease, high cholesterol, and diabetes. After the surgery, I just put myself into high gear as far as eating right and exercising a lot. Although at the time we lived down in Herald in southeastern Sacramento County with 10 acres, and I got a lot of exercises shoveling mulch around with a wheelbarrow and a shovel and spreading it out by hand. I didn't have a tractor. So that was very good exercise. That's probably what kept me alive all that time. But anyway, let's dive in here and talk about the Heart Healthy Garden. That was me back in probably 2010 or thereabouts. I weighed at that time about 220, but I was moving. I was happy. I was still riding my bike and just, moving a lot of weight, really. And then things happened. I grew popcorn. I used to sell it too, ornamental popcorn. This is a heirloom popcorn called 1884 Pennsylvania Dutch heirloom popcorn. It is excellent. It has really good popcorn flavor. If you have room to grow popcorn, which is just a variety of corn, but it's popcorn, try an old heirloom variety. The taste and consistency is very different from what you buy these days, if it's Orville Redenbacher or Jolly Time or any of those. It's smaller and it's crunchier too. It's just, it really is delicious. So try an heirloom popcorn if you so desire. So anyway, after the surgery, and I wanted to get off all those medications, I had to do something. And the first thing I did, write it down. Keep a food diary. Write everything down that you eat. That you can easily do it online. The program I used at the time was Calorie King. Now I use MyFitnessPal. There's plenty out there that you can use to just keep track of what you eat. If anything, what it does, it just kind of puts the brakes on you mentally from eating more when you see the numbers start piling up. It's amazing how many calories there are when you munch out of a bag of potato chips. You don't really want to do that. But basically, I made little Post-it notes for everything to do. Write it down, weigh it, measure it, read the label. Added sugar is your enemy. Soluble fiber is your friend. Make breakfast your best meal, lunch like a prince, and then dine like a pauper. Use smaller plates. You'd be amazed how you can cut down calories just by using smaller plates. The kitchen closes at 7:30. Don't eat after dinner. And that's the other thing you note when you write things down in a food diary, the time that you eat. And it's amazing the amount of calories you can consume after dinner when you're doing nothing but watching TV or something like that. So if you remember to sort of put the brakes on after dinner, you'll be much better off. Eat more fiber, eat less sugar, shop for bread in the freezer, not the shelf. Bread in the freezer is actually whole grain. It's a living grain. It's the entire grain, unlike breads that say they're whole grain, but they're stuck on a shelf with all the other bakery products. That grain has still been processed and part of the fiber has been removed. The most fiber you can find in a loaf of bread is a bread you would buy in the freezer section at the grocery store. Anyway, you can read that on there and see all that you have to do, or what I did that helps you out to lose weight. And then the blue line there is exercise. I'm a biker. I've been riding a bike since I was 5 years old. And the one thing they told me after the surgery, because, I was knocked out at the time, but they tell me they took a chainsaw to my chest and opened it up and used a crowbar to separate the rib cage and took the heart out, put it on a table and started working on me. And to sew you back together on a rib cage, what they do is they push it back together and then they put barbed wire or something like that around there. And they said, well, that takes time to heal. So for 3 months, you can't lift anything heavier than a gallon jug of milk, and you can't ride your bike because you might fall off. So you mean I can't ride my bike? Not for 3 months, no. Oh, well, can I walk? Yeah, you can walk. And I said, well, how far can I walk? Well, just a little bit more each day. Like, just go to the next driveway. Well, at the time, I was living in the country. Everybody had 20-acre parcels. There was a few hundred feet between driveways. I go, okay. So I think by the end of the second week, I was doing 4 miles, and that was fine. And at the end of 3 months, I bought myself a new bike to celebrate, and I'm back on the bike. Like I say, I ride my bike a lot. I do 100 to 125 miles a week, and it helps me clear out my head. And it does help you lose weight, because the more you exercise, the more you can eat, but you can't out-exercise a bad diet, because your body will just start consuming more and more ultra-processed food, junk food. So you have to moderate the food and keep on a good exercise program. And you have to have support. Fortunately, I have a wife who loves to cook. I think she's here. There she is. And I think it was more out of frustration that she said, oh, you're growing all this food. We got to do something with it. Well, okay, let's eat it. So we're big into eating what we grow. We dehydrate a lot. We freeze a lot. We process a lot. We have a canner. We have a dehydrator. We have a freezer. We have a vacuum sealer. And it's amazing how much you can save from a backyard garden to last you for months. We just finished the last summer tomato just a few days ago. They were green tomatoes when I picked them back in December. But if you put them in a cool room like a garage, they'll ripen, and they were fine. They weren't as good as a summer tomato, but it's better than store-bought tomatoes, that's for sure. You need the support. You need the help. If you can't get the cook, you have to be the cook. You have to be the one to keep you at it. So basically, surround yourself with believers. Be your own cheerleader. Find your natural Valium. For me, it's riding a bike. There's nothing wrong with naps. And remember, it's not a diet. It's a lifestyle. You're changing forever. Baby steps show the way. Enjoy the side benefits like buying a smaller wardrobe. At one point, I was down to 140 pounds. And I'd never been that low. I mean, when I got married, I was at 180. But to be, I think, 140 or 142, all of a sudden, the extra large shirts became large shirts and became medium shirts. And then finally, I went to the local fashion store in Herald, which is Tractor Supply Company, and said, do you have any Carhartt shorts in small? And the clerk just laughed and said, no, you're in Herald. We don't carry clothes that small. All right, so I ordered it online. But that was a part of the treat. Also, if you do have heart surgery, and they recommend that you do some post-work, some heart rehabilitation work, do it. But try to nudge them towards doing it at a place of business, such as a hospital that has a cardiac rehab program, as opposed to, turning on YouTube or whatever and watching, and maybe somebody calls you once a week, says, how you doing? The cardiac rehab program at the Lodi Hospital is great. I went there 3 times a week from May through August. And they had stationary bikes. So I was back on the bike riding it. And they track, your blood pressure and your heart rate. And they give you lessons about how to eat. And that's where I learned so much about proper eating and all the tricks you can use to cut down all the calories that you consume needlessly. So if you do get into a cardiac rehab program, try to insist that it's an in-person class where there is supervision and more than just exercising, where you get some, if you will, cheerleading. These people want you to succeed. I mean, I went in there, I told the nurse who was in charge of it, I want to be off all medications. And she said, you can do it. All right, let's do it. By December, I was off all prescription medications. The A1C was controlled, the cholesterol levels were down, and they all agreed. All the doctors agreed to it. I had 3 different doctors, and they all said, okay, yeah, you're doing fine. Cut it off. Or maybe they just were tired of fighting with me and said that. All right, that's my story about that. I'm pretty picky about who I allow to advertise on this podcast. My criteria, though, is pretty simple. It has to be a product I like, a product I use, and a product I would buy again. And you know who checks all those boxes? It's Smart Pots. Smart Pots is the oldest and still the best of all the fabric plant containers that you might find. Smart Pots are sold around the world, and they're proudly made 100% right here in the USA. Smart Pots come in a wide array of sizes and colors and can be reused year after year. Some models even have handles, and that makes them a lot easier to move around the yard. Because the fabric breathes, Smart Pots are better suited than plastic pots, especially for hot climates. That breathable fabric has other benefits too. Water drainage issues? Not with Smart Pots. Roots that go round and round choking the root ball like they do in plastic pots? Doesn't happen with Smart Pots. These benefits will help you get a bigger, better plant than what you've gotten in the past with the same size plastic or other hard container. Smart Pots are available at independent garden centers as well as select Ace and True Value hardware stores nationwide. To find a store near you or to buy online, visit smartpots.com/Fred. And don't forget that /Fred part. On that page are details about how, for a limited time, you can get 10% off your Smart Pot order by using the coupon code FRED. F-R-E-D. Use it at checkout from the Smart Pot store. Visit smartpots.com/Fred for more information about the complete line of Smart Pot's lightweight, colorful, award-winning fabric containers. And don't forget that special Farmer Fred 10% discount. Smart Pots, the original award-winning fabric planter. Go to smartpots.com/Fred. Let's get back to our talk about the Heart Healthy Garden, recorded live last February at a meeting of the Sacramento Rose Society. The bottom line is eat more fiber. Fiber is good stuff. Fiber, soluble fiber, insoluble fiber. It's found in fruits, vegetables, whole grains, legumes. It prevents or relieves constipation, as you probably know from commercials on NPR. Also, it helps maintain a healthy weight, lowers the risk of diabetes and heart disease. Insoluble and soluble fiber. Insoluble fiber, you probably are very aware of because that's the Metamucil that you have heard about. It promotes the movement of material through your digestive system. It increases stool bulk. And where do you get insoluble fiber? Just about in anything you grow has insoluble fiber. Whole wheat flour, wheat bran, nuts, beans, vegetables, cauliflower, green beans, potatoes are all good sources of insoluble fiber. But the magic is the soluble fiber. Soluble fiber is sort of like a gel-like material that gets in your bloodstream. It helps clean out the cholesterol. It helps lower your blood sugar levels. And soluble fiber is found in conjunction usually with insoluble fiber. So if it has insoluble fiber, it probably has soluble fiber too. As in the handout that you have, there's a whole list of the foods that are divided into insoluble and soluble fibers. But oats, peas, beans, apples, citrus, deciduous fruits, which means trees that lose their leaves, carrots, barley, and psyllium, which of course is Metamucil or something like that. I kind of avoid the packaged stuff and just go with the food we can grow in the garden, which is full of great fiber. So the other thing, too, that they don't tell you about insoluble fiber is it has an anti-obesity effect. I like that because it makes you feel more full. And if you feel more full and you eat slower, the brain and the stomach finally communicate and then you can cut down the amount of food you eat. So basically, dietary fibers, soluble fiber really does great at that cholesterol and A1C, the blood sugar lowering. Insoluble fiber can help you say you're full, which is what you want. So how much fiber do you need? Probably more than you are using now. And you won't find this out really until you start writing down and keeping track of everything that you eat. And what's great about these computer programs like MyFitnessPal or Calorie King is they do all the hard work for you. I mean, let's face it, we're creatures of habit. We'll eat the same thing, maybe not every day, but on a regular basis. And once you have it recorded in the system, you just plug it in and it's done. There's at least 2 people here under 50. For you, 25 grams of fiber, 38 grams for men. If you're over 51, men need 30 grams, women need at least 21 grams. The average number of grams for fiber consumption a day in America is 14, which isn't very much at all. A gram, by the way, there in 1 ounce is 28 grams, if that helps you out. And you can do the math as we move along here because everything's in grams. All right. So, of course, I have a list of several easy-to-grow extended harvest varieties of fruits and vegetables with the most soluble fiber that should be part of a heart-healthy backyard garden. In truth, just about anything you grow is going to have fiber. The ones I've chosen for this are the plants that are easiest to grow and have the longest season of ripening, or at least you can plant different varieties of that particular crop for an extended season of harvest. Because you might like, citrus, for example. Did you know you can grow oranges here year-round? If you have at least 4 trees, 5 would be better of different varieties that ripen at different times. Here's 4 of them. You probably can't read that. It says Caracara Sweet Orange, the Washington Navel Orange, the Midnight Valencia Orange, and the Valencia. Those 4, plus 1 more, the Lane Late Navel, will really give you oranges, fresh oranges, year-round for you to enjoy. And we're not talking orange juice here. When you do make juice out of whole fruit, you're destroying the fiber. Most of the fiber is in the flesh of the fruit, although some fruits, especially the fruits with thin skins, a lot of the fiber is in the skin. So it's like apples. Eat the apple with the skin on. Eat the persimmon with the skin on, like a fuyu persimmon. All right, here's a list with everything there. So December to February, you got the Washington navel, plus, and we're going to get into mandarins too. Most citrus, as you know, is ripening this time of year. February through early spring, the Mineola Tangelo and the Trovita oranges. Late spring through early fall, the Lane late navel orange. Also through summer and early fall, the Valencia. Late summer through early winter, if you like limes, the Bear's lime does well here in California. And you can grow lemons year-round too, but will stay sweet. You know why I like oranges is because they're sweet. So I thought you were cutting your sugar down. Well, I'm cutting down added sugars. I'm trying to eliminate added sugars. And you can grow citrus in containers. And if you keep them small, and you can keep them small by just pruning them regularly. Now, you might be saying, well, man, Fred, you sure got a lot of weeds in that pot. Well, actually, what those plants are is alyssum. And alyssum is a low-growing ground cover that is constantly in bloom, except when you first plant it or after a freeze. And I think that's when this picture was taken. Alyssum has been found to be a very big friend of the citrus industry because the alyssum attracts syrphid flies. Syrphid flies are a garden good guy. They're a beneficial insect that goes after the Asian citrus psyllid, which has been spreading what the disease is properly called Huanglongbing, which is the citrus greening effect. California citrus industry may be saved, unlike the Florida citrus industry, which went through hell back in the 1990s because they didn't know what they had. Nobody had heard of citrus greening disease. Nobody saw that Asian citrus psyllid coming. By the time it got to California, we knew what we were dealing with. You have a small yard and you think you don't have the room for fruit trees? Well, maybe you better think again, because Dave Wilson Nursery wants to show you how to grow great-tasting fruits like peaches, apples, pluots, and nut trees. Plus, they have potted fruits such as blueberries, blackberries, raspberries, boysenberries, figs, grapes, hops, kiwi, olives, and pomegranates. These are all plants that you can grow in small areas. You can even grow many of them in containers on patios as well. It's called backyard orchard culture, and you can get step-by-step information via the Dave Wilson YouTube videos. So where do you find those? Well, just go to davewilson.com, click on the Home Garden tab at the top of the page. Also in that Home Garden tab, you're going to find a link to their fruit and nut harvest chart. You can be picking delicious, healthy fruits from your own yard from May to December here in USDA Zone 9. And something else you're going to find in that Home Garden tab. You're going to find the closest nursery to you that carries Dave Wilson's quality fruit trees, and they're in nurseries from coast to coast. So start the backyard orchard of your dreams at davewilson.com. Let's get back to our conversation at the Sacramento Rose Society, recorded last February, about planting the heart-healthy garden. All right, let's talk about beans. I like beans. Beans are an easy crop to grow in the garden. Shell beans, black turtle beans, kidney beans, navy beans, great northern beans, pinto beans. 1.6 to 2.2 grams soluble fiber per 100 grams. And for a crop, that's a very good amount of soluble fiber. The one sheet I gave you from Harvard University that lists the insoluble and soluble fibers in all the common foods that you could possibly grow, you'll see that a good amount of soluble fiber would be in the high ones or in the twos. There aren't too many that are more than that, but we'll talk about those. But beans are easy to grow. In fact, an old nurseryman once told me, he says, the reason people don't have success planting beans from seed is they tend to water it too much. What you need to do when you plant that bean seed, water it. Don't water it again until something pops up out of the ground. Because if you water something that hasn't popped up out of the ground, it could rot, and that's what happens with beans. So go easy on the water with the beans. Bush beans especially, stay nice and tidy like that, and they're easy to harvest, so you don't have to be scurrying up a vine or something to capture them. Potatoes, a very high insoluble fiber crop, if there ever was one. Potatoes, and we're talking white potatoes and sweet potatoes, 2.2 gram soluble fiber. Plant potatoes from slips of what are called seed potatoes. It's not a seed, but it's a seed potato that's been approved for planting. It's disease-free, and they're hard to find sometimes, but usually nurseries get them and they get scooped up really quick. But seed potatoes get planted here January, February, March, August, September, and December. This is not one of those slips. This is an actual seed. The Clancy potato. It's a red potato. It's planted directly from seed. The seeds are easy to find, and they are very delicious red potatoes. It was the All-America Selections winner back in 2019. It's just an amazing little potato. If you do like to grow potatoes, remember they like the heat. So when you go to plant potatoes, you want to do it when the weather is warm, especially sweet potatoes. Sweet potatoes like to be planted in April, May, and June. They really need the heat. Sweet potatoes have a lot of good insoluble and soluble fiber as well. But this Clancy, I highly recommend it because it's easy to plant. Potatoes, you plant them, you let them grow, and then you have to harvest them. Now, if you plant potatoes in the ground, part of the problem is, did you find all the potatoes? No? Oh, well, don't worry. We'll sprout again for you, except it turns into a potato jungle. People can have potatoes happening for years because they never can find them all. Well, the way around that is to plant potatoes into containers that you can easily empty. I don't know, something like a smart pot, a large one, and that you just turn it over, dump it out when the plant starts turning brown, when the leaves start turning brown. If you want to get all the potatoes, just flip that smart pot over and pull out your potatoes. That's the easiest way to do it. Thanksgiving. Yes, that could be actually a good game on Thanksgiving, is send the kids out to the yard and have them turn over smart pots. All right. Peas. Oh, I love peas. And we are growing a lot of cool season peas right now. We start in summer, though. We plant them in September, and they will set their peas probably by November. And they keep producing and producing and producing. Snow peas, sugar peas, they last and last and last. We love the sugar peas, the snow peas, like the Oregon sugar pod, one of my favorites. The key for having an extended harvest for anything in the pea family is plant a row every 2 weeks or so. And they can be bush peas, they can be peas that grow on a vine. What we use to grow our snow peas, which are a vining pea, is, well, September, I've already probably, if I may borrow a Rosarian term, shovel pruned some of the poor performing tomato plants. And so I have a tomato cage available. So I'll put that tomato cage around one of the sugar pea plants and use that for support to have it grow. There's a lot of beautiful peas out there to choose from that you can plant here in the cool season. Remember, peas are a cool season plant. You want to plant them, like I say, September through March, and that's about it. But you can get very colorful looking peas and shells, but you may notice that once you open those nice purple, dark purple or blue shells, the peas are green. But still, peas are easy to grow, and to have a continuous crop every 2 weeks. Plant some more. Figs. Figs have a lot of soluble fiber and insoluble fiber, 1.4 grams per 2 figs. 2 little figs have that much. This is one of my favorite figs, the Violet de Bordeaux. It's a smaller tree, and the reason I like this tree is because it has 2 crops a year. A breba crop in the spring, usually in April, and the main crop September, October. And I'm still mad Scrabble does not approve the word breba in their dictionary, but it's a word. Fig varieties produce a breba crop, an earlier crop. They include Celestial, Excel, Flanders, Ischia Green, King, Laturla, Texas Everbearing, and the Violet de Bordeaux. Those are all good figs if you want 2 crops per year from your figs. Other garden crops with soluble fiber, And I put this list down here just because some of them might be a little bit more difficult to grow. Artichokes, avocado, eggplant, peanuts, you can grow, but they're kind of tough to find. If you think digging for potatoes is hard, try digging for peanuts, but they're down there. Almonds, of course, zucchini, and persimmons. I love persimmons. The Fuyu persimmon is probably my favorite fruit tree of all time. The Fuyu persimmon is non-astringent, which means if you see a ripe one, it has a little bit of give to it on the tree, you can pluck it off the tree and eat it, and your mouth won't make funny faces at you. It's not that puckery. Now, other varieties like the hachia, you can't use till they're just totally soft. But the Fuyu, you can eat while it's firm, and most of that good fiber, it's in the skin. And that's why we like to slice and dry the persimmons with the skin right on it. And when you dehydrate them, you keep that fiber intact. Avocados was on that list. Avocados has a lot of fiber. I was amazed. One person claimed that one avocado has 10 grams of fiber. And, well, that sounds great. Well, maybe I'll grow avocados. And maybe you won't. Anybody here have a successful avocado tree that produces fruit?
I have a plant in my house.
That doesn't count.
I know. They don't grow here?
No, that tree right there is growing in the Arden Arcade area. It's a green plant. Enjoy it as a house plant. It's probably a Haas. The Haas is the standard avocado down in Southern California, which has no business trying to be grown here. They are developing avocado varieties for the Central Valley for agriculture that can take the summer heat. That's one of the big problems with growing avocados here. It's just too hot here. You may note that most of the avocado growing areas in California are in cool coastal climates from Santa Barbara to San Diego, all up and down that coastline where it doesn't usually get over 100 degrees or so. And at night, it doesn't usually drop below 45 or 50 or so. Avocados need impeccable drainage, but they like moist soil. Go figure. How do you do that? Well, it can't be heavy clay soil, that's for sure. But I say try it. If you want to grow an avocado tree, but just pick a variety that has the best chance for survival. This one particular variety that you see here is either a Zutano or a Bacon. Mention the 4 varieties of Mexican avocados that actually have a chance of working here if you've got the right spot in your yard, an area that's protected from too much sun and too much wind. The Mexicola, I don't really want to have to explain A flower and B flower, but basically, let me tell you, that's part of the problem is pollination of an avocado tree. And sometimes you need 2 different varieties, an A flower tree and a B flower tree, in order for pollination to occur. So you've got the Mexicola, you've got the Stewart. Notice the different colors, too. Now, a lot of people don't like the Mexican avocados versus the Guatemalan avocados, which you would find in the grocery store, because you're used to a creamy texture. The Mexican avocados have more of a nuttier, crunchy texture, but you may like it. The Zutano, I know people growing Zutanos here. It happens. And Bacon. So those are the 4 that have a chance of growing here if you want to try it. But again, there's 2 schools of thoughts about the A flower and the B flower tree. The 2 schools of thoughts is, yeah, you need both trees. And the other school of thought is, oh, just plant one. The tree is under so much stress here, it'll produce both flowers. Just trying to grow. All right, anybody recognize that? It's an artichoke. Yes, that's no joke. But artichokes are an acquired taste. And it seems like if you really want to enjoy it, you got to slather those leaves with a lot of butter and mayonnaise and stuff like that. Well, there goes your health product, but it is high in fiber, if you like it. I've discovered when I've harvested it, that it's really best grilled. You can actually grill that whole head. You cut it in half, coat it with olive oil, and grill it for like 2 or 3 minutes aside, and then serve it. But I like it for the flowers because it attracts beneficial insects and all sorts of beautiful bees. And it's just a gorgeous, gorgeous flower on the artichoke. I believe that's the Imperial Star variety. If you have the opportunity, try to plant heirloom varieties of vegetables instead of the newest hybrids. They did a study And it was like a 45-year study of backyard vegetable nutrition. This was at the University of Texas. They compared the nutritional analysis of vegetables grown in 1950, and these are vegetables that made it to market, so these are supermarket varieties, versus 1999. Notice the drop-off of nutrients. Protein dropped from 3.3 to 2.9. Vitamin A almost in half, more than half, 3,500 to 1,542. Ascorbic acid, vitamin C was down. Calcium way down. And they were trying to figure out, well, why was there such a big difference over 49 years? What happened in the agricultural industry? What did they do that caused the nutrition levels in broccoli or anything to go down? They concluded that the most likely explanation was changes in cultivated varieties. Emerging evidence suggested that when you select hybrid varieties for yield, crops do grow bigger and faster, but they don't necessarily have the ability to make or uptake nutrients at the same faster rate. So when you develop hybrid varieties in order to get to market first, if you're a farmer, that's important. You get more money if you get there first. That breeding to that hybrid variety, something has to give. And what usually gives, I think we all discovered, it's flavor for one thing, but it's also nutrients. So choosing heirloom varieties for your garden can be a lot more nutritious. What's the fiber content of roses? Rose petals. Rose petals are edible. They have an amazing amount of fiber. This was a study done by a university, and I think this is and it was published in a peer-reviewed journal, Transformation in Agroindustry, back in 2019. The chemical composition of rose, sunflower, and calendula flower petals for human food use. And roses won the fiber race. So if you wanted a high fiber content petal to chew on, gather 100 grams of rose petals and munch on those. But because supposedly those leaves are just full of fiber. Rose petals can be characterized as a source of fiber for a food. To be characterized as a source of fiber, it must have a minimum of 3 grams of fiber per 100 grams, and it does have that with 3.2% fiber. So it is considered a human food. Whenever I read studies, and I learned this while battling doctors to convince them that diet and exercise can reverse a lot of diseases, that, you know, you quote the journals they have to read, the AMA journal, all the hundreds of journals that are out there. One thing you got to be careful about these journals, okay, who paid for this study? Who did this study? So you have to flip through it all. You read the criticisms of it, because a good peer-reviewed study will have any shortcomings it may have listed. You got to make sure that the authors of the study aren't on somebody's payroll in the food industry. And so I wanted to know who paid for this. I figured, I bet Tom Caruth paid for this. I don't know. But no, it was actually funded by the government of Colombia to do that study. Okay, and another study said that rose is a beautiful and fragrant plant with a variety of medicinal and substance uses. Various parts of rose, such as the fruits, flowers, leaves, and bark, can be used in various product development, including cosmetics, food, pharmaceuticals, and engineering. The medical benefits of roses include the treatment of inflammation, diabetes, dysmenorrhea, depression, stress, seizures, and aging. Well, I'd never come across the word dysmenorrhea before. I'll be polite here. It's cramps, female cramps. But they discovered in their studies, an interesting study to do, but they studied by giving women with cramps a full body massage with rose oil reduced the pain. That rose oil has an amazing amount of great benefits to it for controlling dysmenorrhea. But who knew? Dude, you can go ahead and go online and read that whole 90-page thing and all the work they did in getting the material applications of rose. It was a very thorough study. When you do an internet search, for heaven's sakes, people, for garden information or pest information, Google's got a great way of pushing stuff towards the top that people have paid to be there. So what you do in your search, let's say you're having an aphid problem. Well, you'd put aphids in the search box, but then also type in .edu or better yet, because you're in California, UC or UCANR, which stands for University of California Ag and Natural Resources. That's going to take you straight away to great information that you can use that you know has been peer-reviewed and studied and is effective. The Vegetable Research and Information Center, vric.ucdavis.edu, a great one for good vegetable information. The California Backyard Orchard, homeorchard.ucdavis.edu, for fruit tree information, with information you'd ever want to know about taking care of that tree from birth till death. Pests, the IPM program, Integrated Pest Management Program at UC Davis, ipm.ucdavis.edu. Good source of information. Thank you, by the way, for listening to the podcast. The podcast just keeps growing. I couldn't retire if I wanted to. Thanks so much. Thank you for indulging me. Garden Basics with Farmer Fred comes out every Friday. It's brought to you by Smart Pots and Dave Wilson Nursery. Garden Basics, it's available wherever podcasts are handed out. For more information about the podcast, as well as an accurate transcript, visit our website, gardenbasics.net. And there you can find out about our newsletter, Beyond the Garden Basics. And thank you so much for listening and your support.